Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your days to join us online. I'm in Birmingham. I know I've got colleagues in Scotland and London, so welcome wherever you're joining us from. My name's Ali. I work for the British Property Federation. I'm in their communications team, but I've got particular responsibility for the Futures Network. So I just want to say a couple of words before I hand over to my colleagues. BPF, we're looking pretty good. We've got, it's our 60th year this year, so not too bad. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes across the built environment in those 6 decades, whether that's the retail, shape of retail and your high streets and town centres, or whether that's the boom in the build to rent in the residential sector. There's been a lot of changes. Now we know that the property industry as a whole supports the economy. We've got new figures coming out, hopefully in the next week or so. But as of last year, the property industry was contributing £107 billion each year to the UK economy. That's the equivalent of 6% GBA. As members and as the industry, we spend about £6 billion a year on things like affordable housing, on schools, roads, open spaces for our local communities. And we've got a very important role to play now, as I'm sure you're all aware, in the climate crisis. 25% of UK greenhouse gas emissions come from the built environment. And so the BPF is doing a lot to encourage and support members in their drive to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. I would encourage you to look at the BPF's net zero pledge, where you can find out a bit more about all of that. So overall, as we look at all the people on the chat now, we can see 57 participants. All of us here, we're making up for about 1 in 12 of the jobs in the UK. So we're a pretty robust and hearty industry. What does all of this mean for BPF Futures? Well, Futures started a few years ago, and the idea was to bring the new voice and the younger voice into the industry and really embed a diverse voice that represents British society into the British Property Federation's work. We want to make sure that our next generation of property leaders are really well equipped to continue well and successfully for the next 60 years, and that they've got the support and information around them to be able to do this. That's why we're running the mentoring webinar today. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Angus, who's going to tell you lots more about BPF Futures. I'd encourage you to participate, use the chat that we've mentioned. The session is being recorded, so any issues on that, raise your hand or let us know. And we hope you find the session really useful. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ali. Yeah, big thanks for everyone joining this lunch. We'll sort of rattle through it, and we will get to some questions at the end. So there is a Q&A function there, so do get your questions in. We'll also monitor the chat as well. But today we're really lucky to be joined. Ian Smith and I will give a bit of info on the BPF Futures, and Olivia Sullivan, who's also from the BPF Futures Advisory Board, is going to give some info as a mentee. And we're also joined by Joe Allen, who's Chief Executive from Frogmore, who's going to give some insight as a mentor. So session today is to really learn about the fantastic mentoring program, which has now kicked off, and a bit of info on the BPF Futures and the work they're doing. So can't thank everyone enough for jumping on, and it really is appreciated. In terms of where the BPF Futures sit at the moment, it's fantastic. That's now at 1,800 young and career professionals. It's from a range of sectors. It's all over the country, basically coming together to learn, have an influence on the sector, and have an influence on the future. And Ian will touch more upon this later. But what's great is this number is growing, and we want it to keep growing. So we want everyone on this call to get involved. We want you to sort of share, speak with colleagues, harass them to get involved as well. I've been part of it for over a year now, and it's really been invaluable in terms of whether it's picking up the phone to someone you've met at an event, joining calls, policy forums on issues that are going to be really important throughout my whole career, and that's fantastic in a brilliant arena of young professionals that with the number growing. So yeah, it's really exciting, and hopefully can give you a bit more info today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello everyone, and nice to meet or virtually meet you all. The purpose of the network, as Angus said, is to target the young and professional group of the industry, and it's we're targeting a 10-year age group, so anyone with 10 years experience or less. And the great thing is that 10 years is not from, or the clock does not start running from when you leave university or you finish your apprenticeship or when you go into the industry. It starts from when you join the industry in real estate itself. So if you had been a mechanic for 20 years and decided, actually automotive is not for me, real estate is where it's at, I want to be part of that, then even if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, you're very welcome here, and there's no upper age limit. Looking at the 10-year kind of span, that takes a lot of a career. So within that, you'll have people, for example, who are graduates or just starting in the industry, doing their first job from school or further education, right the way up to people who have direct reports or who are knocking the door of partnership or director type roles. And it's a really broad church. So on the screen right now, you can see it's a whole host of people who are eligible to join. And as Angus was saying, the strength of the network is so important, and it's really only as good as the number of members that we have, just like anything else. So 1800 is amazing. We'd love to grow that. So thanks so much for being interested yourself. But if there's other people in your organisation, junior to you, senior to you, or your peers who are keen or eligible to join, please do tell them about it, and you'll really get so much out of that, as will you and all the other members of the network when they join up.
And this is how it's sort of run. We've got the BPF Futures Advisory Board. So as you can see, it covers a range of from geography, but also sector, public sector with Olivia, private sector, but also geography as well. So we've now got the regions, we've got Scotland and London and the whole of pretty much the UK covered, which is fantastic. Led by Isabel Heath, and supported vice chair is Emily, who is based in Scotland with Ian and I. So having this broad range means we can have access to a brilliant network to put on events, which is split up into the 4 pillars, which Ian will give you a bit of info on now. Yeah, so the way we do our work, and the organisation is obviously represented by the advisory board, of which Angus and I are members, and to which all members are able to contribute and feed input and be part of. We split what we do across these 4 key pillars: influencing, learning, mentoring, and networking. But I suppose, what do those all mean, and what have we actually been doing about them? So influencing is helping shape the built environment and letting senior leaders in industry know exactly what the junior side of the profession think. We've been doing that by, for example, things like policy congresses, roundtables, and exchanging ideas. And in particular, ED&I is something that we as a group feel really strongly about, and have been doing a really big thought leadership piece on. We've run a survey, we've had brainstorming sessions, and we're feeding back those results. And it's really interesting, because what that's shown us is that, in particular, to people's priorities, things like social mobility and ethnic diversity are really top of that list, and things that need to be championed. So very exciting, and it's a broad range of subject matter, not all technical building surveying type stuff, far from it. Learning, very similar, to help us understand the key issues that are affecting our industry, and closely linked to influencing a little bit. And we have a lot of thought leadership around that, a lot of seminar type work led by particular experts, or panel discussions where insight can be shared and knowledge can be exchanged. We've had a number of workshops on the board as well, for keeping our finger on the pulse and giving us new skills, which has been really, really great. Mentoring, we'll talk a little bit about in more detail in a second, so no spoilers on that front. And networking is what it says in the tin. It's just a chance to go and have a few drinks, be that water or beer or whatever, and meet other people who are in the same industry at the same rough stage of their career, and expand your own network. And it's a really great opportunity to meet people. I've met people like Angus, who I'm sure one day we will call friends, and we'll look back on a long career working together and stuff like that. So it really is fantastic. In terms of, I suppose, why everyone's here today, is the fantastic mentorship program, which launched in 2021 and has been really brilliant in terms of connecting and what it does. So this year has actually, it's now sort of kicked off in April. And we're now in May with the kick of events, and applications will close in June. So, and that's when the careful matching process begins, which there is a sort of an opportunity to have a bit of influence on. From here in August, the mentees will be told who their match is. Mentors are provided with their profile of their mentee, and then the information pack, which is really comprehensive, gives you more info on it all, gives you some sort of thought about how you can use it, but that is purely some suggestions, and you can really take it wherever you want it to go. And then in September, it officially starts with a face-to-face meet and greet. And they are in London, Scotland, Birmingham, and Manchester. So an opportunity to meet them in person before it all kicks off. It runs from September to April, and there's a minimum of 6 sessions which take place. I think the key word here is minimum. So whether you want that to be 8 or 10, this is led by the mentee. So the kind of the responsibility is with the mentee themselves. They can say whether they want these sessions half hour, 45 minutes in person. This is all to be decided. It's important that the mentee keeps on top of this. You can't expect sort of the mentor to drop everything for a meeting tomorrow. It's important that it's planned and it needs prep. So both the mentee and mentor get the most out of it, because it really is invaluable and a brilliant program. And then in May, it kind of comes to a formal conclusion. So there will be surveys circulated, and feedback's always massively welcome. But that's the formal end, and we do hope that relationships sort of continue in the future and don't need to end there as well. Olivia, thanks very much for joining. If you want to maybe touch upon the next bit.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Olivia O'Sullivan, and I work for Homes England in the public sector. And I was in the last cohort of mentees on the programme, so I'm here to talk to you about my experience. But first, I've got this slide about the expectations of mentees, just to sort of be, I think, really clear up front from the BPF Futures side, which is please make first contact with your mentor once you've been paired with somebody. Obviously, you'll come across as super enthusiastic and sort of game for the programme ahead, but it's really important to initiate contact early on, because as Angus said, there's this expectation of 6 sessions. And if you leave it for a few months, you may find that it'll be quite hard to squeeze them all in over the course of the programme. And obviously, there's so much to get out of the programme that it's really worth jumping in and starting as soon as possible. I think the second point is come prepared. So I know that BPF Futures have been working on a mentoring pack over the last few cohorts, which gives you a really great starting point for the meet and greet session, which is the first session that you have, and then gives you a framework that you can plan what you'd like to speak with your mentor about. There's no obligation to use it, and it may be that you deviate from that in agreement with your mentor, but it's a great resource to have if you're not sure where you want to begin. You might like to create agendas for your sessions. That has been useful for me in the past, just to refer back to when I just want to make sure that I've covered everything that I want to get out of the sessions. And obviously, in terms of meetings, these can be virtual or in person, depending on where your mentor is based and where you're based as well. Be open and honest if you're comfortable doing so. It may be that this takes a bit of time to build up, and that's absolutely great. Go at your own pace, but obviously there's a lot that you can get out of these sessions, and hopefully you can get what you need as a mentee from them by really being upfront with your mentors about what it is that you're looking to get out of the session. And hopefully this is a two-way street, and I'm sure that the mentors will challenge your thinking and give you frank advice in return, which is really invaluable. and you may have your views tested and thinkings tested either on big picture career moves that you're hoping to make, or just scenarios that you're testing out on them. They were in your shoes once, so it's a really, really great opportunity. I work in Homes England, which is a public sector body, and I was really keen to be paired with somebody in the private sector on this programme. And my mentor worked in the build to rent investment environment, which was great because I also work in that at Homes England. So it meant that in terms of topics covered, there was a technical side to it for me, which I really enjoyed. But then I was also able to gain advice on next career steps, which was brilliant, and ask them lots of questions about their career to date and their journey and their current role, which I found really useful and really interesting. And I think that the main thing is that it would have probably been hard for me to meet this person through my current day-to-day job. And this mentoring program gave me that opportunity to meet somebody that I wouldn't have met in the sort of easily and build a relationship with them. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to continue the mentoring sessions with them over the coming years. They were based in Scotland and I was based in London. But that didn't sort of detract from virtually having conversations or meeting in person. They had an office space in London and they visited sometimes. So by planning ahead, we were able to meet for lunch, which was great. And the other thing that I did at the start of the programme that I found really useful was there was an in-person event organised through BPF Futures. And that helped me meet other mentees and mentors at the start of the programme. And I found that really great. So if you do manage to connect on LinkedIn today and someone's based near you, it's really worth meeting up for a chat just to broaden your network. I thought that was a great part of the programme as well. And then I think earlier on, Angus mentioned at some points that really try not to cancel sessions if you can. Obviously, the mentors often are quite busy people and they're really keen to be involved in the programme. Try and plan ahead and not to be late as well and be reliable. But yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough. It's been a brilliant experience for me. So the next slide is to hear from Jo, Chief Executive of Frogmore. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Olivia. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I can't actually see myself on the screen that I'm on, which is somewhat disconcerting, but Olivia, can you hear me? Can you put a thumbs up? Yes, great. Thank you very much. So yes, my role was as a mentor. I think it was an embryonic program, so I didn't really know what to expect, which was good because we could be groundbreaking. But picking up on some of the themes that Olivia put forward in a minute, but I'll tell you a little bit about my mentee. She was a chartered surveyor, is a chartered surveyor. She'd been in the industry for about 6 years. She'd worked at a large consultancy and she now found herself in a second consultancy role and was keen to kick on with her career. A very ambitious young lady who wanted promotion or wanted to further herself and thought that she wanted to get into a capital markets role as opposed to being in a more valuation and consultancy role. So there was some general confusion in her mind about where was the best place for her to go next. And also, like we all have, some difficulties around working with colleagues. So we met regularly. We were both based in London. We met face to face. We started off sort of in a coffee shop, having a very informal getting to know you chat, because I think this process, to get the most out of it, has to have an element of trust. There's two things. First of all, it is a commitment on both sides, and to echo what Olivia said, it's a time commitment. So I agree that it's best to be really sort of proactive about getting those dates in the diary and then sticking to them. People are busy. But the people who volunteer to be mentors really do want to help and advise. So be on time, be respectful of each other's time, don't keep jiggling things around unless it's absolutely unnecessary, absolutely necessary. And there really isn't much excuse for being late. Usually if you're late and I'm sorry my train was late, it was because you didn't leave home early enough. So leave a bit earlier, make sure you're on time would be a great advice, particularly if you're meeting me. So anyway, what we spent time doing was looking at what she was good at, what she liked doing, and then how we could match those with what was available in the market. We also spent a long time looking at where she was at the moment in her current organisation, and through discussion over, I think I've looked in my diary, we met 7 times during this process. I think we came to the conclusion together that she had a really good opportunity where she was, and her best option was to push for promotion. So then it was a question of counselling and advising and debating what was the best way to get that promotion. And that was really mainly about people skills. And it was where I've worked in real estate. I started my career at Richard Ellis in 1988. So I've had 35 years of negotiating my way through the industry to become chief executive of Frogmore in 2016. We're a private equity investor, but that's 35 years of dealing with people in business, and people behave in certain ways, and some people, not everyone behaves the same. So it was a question of us looking at the personalities that she was dealing with, the right approach, and what she might or might not say, what she might or might not try, how she could further her own profile in the appropriate way. And the result of which was that she did get her promotion, which I couldn't be more proud of her, which was mainly her achievements rather than mine. I was just a guiding hand. And I think we will remain firm friends. And from the other side of the table, I learned an awful lot from her, because she's a different generation from me. She had different challenges, and lots of modern, fresh outlook on life. So it really was a symbiotic process, and so enjoyable. And I'm putting myself forward again for anyone who feels they could benefit from something that I have to offer. So that's really the experience. But I think, if you have that first session and you just feel you don't gel, then I think that would be okay to go back to the BPF and say, this isn't going to work, or with all respect to the mentor, this isn't going to work. Because for it to work, you do have to form that alliance of trust, and that you're working to the same objective. So again, picking up on Olivia's point, it's good to go in there with a goal. My mentee wanted to be promoted or to get a better job. That was clearly what she wanted to do, and she had some challenges around people. And we would set perhaps at the end of each session, to get something out of it, so it didn't just become a talk shop, I might set her a bit of homework, which was, why don't you think about this, or why don't you try this? And then let's get some feedback at the end of it. And I would have been really irritated if she hadn't at least tried it. And sometimes she did and said that was rubbish. And I was like, okay, right, we've got to try another approach. But yeah, try and come out of it with an objective of each session of what you want to do next time, so that there's some sort of structure around it. But I think there's no right or wrong way. And I am one who has benefited massively throughout my career from the advice, guidance, support, and just general championing, promotion, let's put it that way, of other people who are perhaps been around the block a little bit more than me, or less than me, and have a different outlook on life. I think that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Brilliant, Jo and Olivia. I hope that sort of helps in terms of painting a bit of a picture of how valuable the mentorship program can be. I think what I've sort of taken away, the way you can sort of confide with someone that's not in your organization, almost from looking out to in, which can be difficult to do, someone within your organization. It's a fresh, different outlook, and it's really in the mentee's hands to decide what they get out of it. So it's brilliant. We hope you want to get involved, and in terms of, we'll just have a look at the questions, and Ali, you may want to jump in with any of them here, but I'm not sure I can see any direct questions at this point.
I think it's been so content rich. We've amazed everybody with the information. No questions just yet. Really happy if anyone's got any other queries about it. Thank you so much, Olivia and Joe, for your perspectives. It's great to hear from an actual pair that's been through it all from the inside. As of last, just any questions, please do put in the chat box or the Q&As. We'll have a look if you wanted to. We had 151 participants last year. We've already got nearly 100 registrations so far this year. And we do allow ourselves enough time to make that match. So really happy for people to continue to apply, and to encourage other colleagues and even senior managers. You might have managers in your business who you think, oh, they'd be really good mentoring. They should be part of it. Happy to have that as well. So, hello, Jessica, thanks for your question. Do we have any more information about mentoring related events this month? This is our highlight. We were going to have face-to-face ones. Unfortunately, with one thing or another, they didn't come to pass. So this has been our main mentoring event. We've got the application forms online. Keep a lookout on BPF events and in your BPF futures emails for futures events, because we have got a fair few of those. We've got a London networking on the 20th of June, and you can see a fabulous advert there for a Scotland event.
Yeah, so there's only limited spaces, about 10. So it's been really popular, this one. So we'd love to fill it completely.
So in terms of the face-to-face events, Jessica, keep an eye out on emails on BPF Futures, on BPF events webpage, and on our LinkedIn page. Do follow us there as well, because we do give people nudges on the LinkedIn page about events. You're welcome, you're welcome. And then there's definitely, we've got 2 mentoring meet and greets set for September, one in London, one in Manchester. There will be one in Scotland. So keep an eye out on your communications from that. I think there's another question. That's a really good question. Are there any fees? No, none at all. This is on the goodwill and the good time of all our senior leaders and directors who take part, such as Joe. This is completely free for all BPF Futures members.
I jump in and say that my mentee did actually buy me dinner to celebrate her success, so that was nice.
So depending on the restaurant, it could be 30, 50 quid. Yeah, that's good to know, Joe.
It wasn't essential, but it was very nice to have. So
yeah, very nice. A lovely celebration at the end. Oh, they've warmed up now, Angus. Here we are. Oh, thank you, Jay. That's great to know. Jay in the chat said that he really enjoyed it as a mentee. And I've heard from other mentors that actually the sessions don't end for them. They might become less frequent, but there might still be phone calls now and again. What do you think about this? Or some challenges come up. So it's not a hard stop. It is for us so that we can manage the next cohort. But for those who are participating in it, it's up to you and your relationship. You might find you've got through a particular stage in your career, a bit of a sticky point that you wanted some support on. That's now concluded, and you feel that that mentorship program has done what it needed. So you might end that together. That's absolutely fine. And just to pick up on Joe's point, if you find it's not working, please do let BPF know as soon as possible. No hard feelings, no big payments going to be issued. We will try and rematch you because we want to make it work for both the mentor and the mentee. So that's no problem at all. Any mentee fees? Yep, none at all. Any other message on there? Oh, what are the parameters? Yeah.
No. Yeah, crack on.
Did I mention that one, Angus?
Yeah, no, you. I was just reading out the same one, I think.
Yeah. So Hamish, thanks for your question. So you're asking about how do we pair them? It is literally like your application form. So what you put on your application form is what we're going to do best to match with. So if you say, I really want to know so much more about the build to rent, I'm new to it and I'm getting lost and stuck, we will look for somebody in the build to rent. As Olivia said, she said coming from the public sector, she needs to understand the private sector more. That was an easy fit. It could be something different. It could be you're a new parent and how on earth do you juggle, as certain people are doing.
My mentee wanted a female mentor. That was her specific request.
there we go. So absolutely, please do put that kind of information on your application form. Your background, whether it's cultural, religious, LGBT, and you think, actually, I would really appreciate, I want a mentor that looks like me. We will do our best to make that match. We believe that's important. And we're actually reaching out this year. We're asking for more female mentees like Jo and more from diverse backgrounds to represent our future's diverse membership as well. And as I was just saying there to Olivia, who's doing really well with a poorly child in the background, kudos to Olivia. You might be a new parent, or you might be juggling things outside of working life, which puts certain different pressures on your working life. That is equally a valid point that you could discuss with your mentor, because it's about your whole working practice as much as it is about career progression. I hope I'm seeing nods from Jo there. I hope you agree with me there.
Something from Jessica there: is being paired up guaranteed if you apply, or is it dependent on the type of mentors who sign up and your requirements?
Yes and no and yes, I suppose. So we will do our utmost to get you a mentor of the shape and the format of your wishing, with your with the experience that you wish. Some mentors are taking on one or taking on two, so that gives us more. It's very much about, it's like that pairing game, you know, those cards that you lay out in front of you with the kids, and it's like you get 2 dinosaurs and you get 2 houses and you get 2 trees. We're trying to find out what the mentor is saying on their application, because the mentors fill in a quick registration form as well. So they might say, I've got 20 years in this background and I've got this kind of family, and I like hiking in the forest. You know, they might give us some background like that. We will do our best to match the experience as well as the personal background of the mentor with that mentee. I'd say 95% is a really good match. It's not going to work 100% of the time, and that's why we would say get back in touch with us if you're thinking it's really not what I wanted. But that's why we take the time and we give ourselves that big window to look at all the applications from the mentees and what their requirements are, all the mentors, and then we do our best to sift and connect them in the best way. Okay. Any more, Angus, I think?
I don't think so at the moment.
So, just one more point then, perhaps to conclude. The feedback's important, and through that we have evolved the information pack, because actually people were asking for a bit more guidance and framework. So in the information pack that you'll get if you sign up, once you get paired, the mentor and the mentee will have an information pack, PDF documents. One of the pages is actually an agreement, so that at the first session you have a chat with your mentor and your mentee and you agree. This is not professional counselling. If there's anything really untoward, you'll get extra help from the Samaritans, if it's so be it. This is a friendly, informal and personal and confidential agreement. So there's some guidelines on that initially to set those expectations. There's also a page that sort of sets out those 6 meetings, and as Olivia said, that is not rigid. That's a framework for you to adapt to as you wish, but we recommend you might meet once a month for 6 months. You might meet once every fortnight for the equivalent amount of time. Up to you. So we've given you that kind of framework, and then also topics, because you might think, oh, I've got access to this amazing leader. How can I make the most of it? What should I be asking them? So actually, we've given you just a whole list of topics, and you might say, right, I want to do better at, I need advice on public speaking, or I need better project management skills, or can we just only talk about time management, or can we, as Jo was pointing out, be on time, be reliable. So giving you some topics. So actually you might think you're okay in your career at the moment. You might want to stay where you are for another couple of years. You might want some idea mapping your career. How can you get the most out of this mentoring? You don't have to be at a crunch point. This could be literally a learning from that senior leader. So we've given you a few topics in the pack as well that might help you shape your mentoring sessions. Okay. I think,
Great,
Angus, yeah, we're done.
I think that's probably it. And obviously, if there are any more questions after this that spring to mind, then please do get in contact as well. And hopefully see everyone at the next BPF Futures event. Thank you very much for joining today, and a massive thanks to Olivia and Jo, as that's been brilliant, and Ian as well, of course.
Thanks, Angus, for hosting so well.
And Ali too, sorry.
No, not at all. Thanks, Jo and Olivia, for your insight, and we hope everyone on the call really found it useful. Have a great afternoon.
Great. Thanks very
Thanks,
much,
everyone.
Enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.